Hello and welcome to the Gold patch notes rundown for patch 9.20. Once again with me as your host, Smalls Fry. This is the patch where they are finally shipping out those Garen changes as well as a Shaco, I would say medium-sized rework. And Viktor's getting some changes as well. This is actually my second take. I've been through these, so I'm going to go through these a little bit faster than I would otherwise. I apologize. It's also a short patch, so hopefully this won't take too long, but enough of the intro, here we go. Okay, so starting out, we'll get to those in a second. So, Blitzcrank gets some minor buff, or minor nerfs, off of his Q buff last patch. So they've decreased his armor by 4 and his armor growth by half per level. So that means a total of 12.5 reduction at level 18. That's a little less than a cloth armor, which is 15 armor. So what this means is almost nothing. It just means that if he's pulling somebody tanky enough to withstand the Q and E combo and then attack back, especially somebody physical who does a lot of physical damage, so somebody like Skarner or Garen or, yeah, I'm trying to think of any other AD bruisers, someone like Yorick, pulling is going to be more dangerous, as well as if the enemy has a teammate nearby. He is opening himself up to taking more damage, which he will have fewer resistances for. Now, will that matter? Not much. That's going to be like a 5% damage increase early, and late, I think he'll have armor to cover up that total of 12.5 he's missing. So it's going to be about a 5% increase overall. Not too bad, though. Garen. So, what they've done, they have changed his passive scaling. We'll go over that in more detail. The W has a shield, E spins, it increases based off of, or the count increases based off of attack speed, and R always deals true damage. They basically got rid of the villain stuff that they added in the Juggernaut patch. So first, attack speed growth goes up by just a little bit. I say a little bit, but that's basically a 20% increase compared to how it was before. Health got rounded up, and health growth got rounded down. The math works out to basically the same. He loses like a quarter or half of a health point at level 18. Not too much of a big deal. I feel like this isn't going to change the Garen Yuumi thing as much as the Yuumi nerfs did last patch. Rest in peace, Cat. Anyway, moving on. His passive changes. So, rather than the region going up at, I think it's level 9, maybe it's level 10, and then just jumping to 8%, it increases per level. I didn't do the math on this, so, okay. 8.6 divided by 17, so basically it's 0.5% per level, if I recall correctly. Yes, it's basically 0.5% per level. So starting at level 2, that evens out. So level 1 is the only time he's really slightly more punishable. But although they got rid of the double regen when he's low, they've decreased the delay. Early, late, it's higher than it was before, but it's consistent. Minions no longer interrupt it at all. So, his wave clear after trades is a lot safer because he can clear through minions and not worry about them interrupting his increased regen. Let's see, Q. So this is basically a quality of life thing for him, is that if he builds attack speed, his Q will cast faster. That's just going to be nice. And then a bug that I've heard about but haven't seen is that when he's slowed, the Q lockout increases. So that kind of... probably something Garen mains see, not something I've seen before. W, Courage. So they decreased the overall resistances he gets. So that's a nerf to him being tanky. So he'll need to either build more resistances, or he'll need to do something else to compensate for that. We'll get to that in 1 second, though. And then he gets a shield now for 10% of his max HP. That's going to be about 40, or not 40, 400 health late game. If builds continue as they have currently. Again, that may change, you'll see in a second. So, yeah, basically he gets a 10% max HP shield, and then the tenacity is actually double what it used to be. Right, it goes from 30% to 60% for the first 3/4 of a second. Alright, that's actually not too bad. Personally, I think that's a good change because you can see the damage reduction more easily with that shield. With that shield, he can now take runes like Shield Bash if he keeps going down the resolve tree. I don't think he will, though, and I'm about to get to that in 1 second. So we're going on to the E, and this is actually one of the bigger changes. So they changed the way the E works in that, so he gains +1 spin per, +1 spin from items and levels, or from attack speed from items and levels, which means every 6 levels, based off of his attack speed, he will gain enough attack speed for another spin. So at level 18, this does balance out to 10 spins, and that's if he doesn't build any attack speed. If he does build attack speed, he will spin more, and if I recall correctly, it's the same duration, so it's simply that he's spinning faster. So jumping down to here, spins before shred, he will apply that shred faster if he builds attack speed. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of attack speed item built on Garen. I'm not sure what, though. Maybe Wit's End. That would actually be a pretty decent item for him, I feel like. But overall, just be aware that if he's building attack speed, he's going to shred you faster and he's going to shred you harder. The damage per spin, though, it's gone down early, but the base damage, at least late, is increased because 8 plus 24 is higher than 30, basic math. And the AD ratio is the same as it was before. So if you're taking, at level 18, if you're taking all 10 spins, it's an extra 20 damage. If the builds are the same, everything else is the same. But if he builds attack speed, he's going to hit more often. That may mean he's not building as much AD, but I don't know. Also, something to note, rather than he only increased damage if he's against a single enemy, in which case he's going to do your minion wave would save you for that, it's simply the closest enemy. So, for one, clearing minion waves with his E, he can do that faster just by hitting minions one after the other with, by getting that bonus damage on them. Two, he gets that bonus damage if you're the closest thing, even if you're in the minion wave. As long as they don't change it so that it targets champions first, that's a fine change in my opinion. However, granting Stacks of Conquer, now grant Stacks of Conquer on each spin, this is why I think his build is going to change, in that he can build Conqueror now and do fine. You're going to see more damage-oriented Garen builds, I think. Especially, so that's why I don't think he's going to take Shield Bash for dueling potential, because he's going to go down the precision tree first rather than the resolve tree. I think there was something else that was... Oh yeah, and then also, he loses these resistances, all of that. I think just based off of this, we're going to see slightly more damage-oriented Garen builds, and less, tanky bruiser style. So he's still going to be a good juggernaut, but we're going to see more damage out of him. Overall, game state-wise, the only thing I'm going to say is I don't like the way the game is changing towards everyone dealing more damage. Earth has changed the game considerably just with its mere presence, but I'm not going into a debate or diatribe on that, whatever. Anyway, speaking of damage, though, his ult, for one, he doesn't mark people, so that simplifies it. It grants vision of the target. I'll have to see this on live. If it is just granting vision when they go into a bush, it's a good change. If it's granting vision through invisibility, I don't like it. I've seen a lot of champions like Kha'Zix or Shaco use their invis to stop the ult and save themselves. So I think if you're playing cleverly like that, it's fine for it to... it's fine for the invis to break it. If that gives sight through invis, that's not a change that I really like. It removes potential counterplay options if, obviously the main counterplay is just don't get caught by Garen if he's fed, but at the same time, there should be a way for you to escape that. Last, the damage numbers are down, right? Down by 25 per point into his ult, as well as the ratios are down. They're much simplified. I think he loses, about a quarter of the damage. Yeah. So damage is down by a quarter, basically. But it's true damage instead of magic damage now, so you can't build resistances around it. Also note that this is, a percentage of your missing health as true damage. So I think it's gonna be at like 80% missing health. It's guaranteed kill. I'm gonna have to do the math on that. So if you're at 20% health, 80% down. Yeah, that's a guaranteed kill. I think you can be at like 21-22% health, and it'll also kill you. End of math. So yeah, overall damage up, true damage up considerably because of Conqueror and probably building more damage in his kit, and then the fact that his R is true damage all the time, and they got rid of the convoluted villain mechanic. Now, if only the last problematic juggernaut change could receive fixes like that. They've changed Mordekaiser so that he's been completely reworked. Darius hasn't really been too problematic. Obviously he's still kind of a lane bully top, but he's not one of those champions that he's picked ban quite as badly as he was when he first came out. Garen's gotten changes, so his juggernaut changes are basically, they're gone. Skarner. Still juggernaut, still basically the same as he was when they released him in 5.16. Still barely played more than as a Predator tank in LCS. Please, Riot, for the love of God. Please. Listen to the Skarner community, even if it's just kind of a semi-revert to Crystal Venom. They've got some really good ideas that will not just revert him, but also modernize him, so that he's not completely reliant on those spires that enemies can take away. I'm kind of going on a tangent. I'm going to stop the rant now, but overall, I think good changes for Garen. They're going to expand his build possibilities while still allowing people to keep going with the traditional builds like they have been. Ivern. Screw this change. Screw this guy. Basically, they've made him ranged. I hate ranged champions in the jungle in the first place, because they get an unfair advantage when dueling. I mean that, by the time you get to them, they've already dealt 2 or 3 attacks worth of damage, which early game is a lot. Additionally, Ivern's just a shitty champion to play against. Unless you're tracking him constantly, he's just going to walk into your jungle, take a camp instantly, and walk out. Because if he's got Smite up, he just starts marking smites and it's gone. There's no time for you to prevent him, no time to ambush him while he's taking the camp. Unless you can attack him while he starts that channel. But even then, that requires being there and fighting him, which he now has an advantage on. So yeah, screw this. I hate this change. I just hate the champion, but I hate anything that makes him more reliable. Moving on to Lissandra. So she got kind of a placebo buff here, and then her passive got buffed. I know it's got a per level scaling or something like that, but it still increased her damage on that by about 50%, I think, once the per level scaling is taken into account. And they've increased this by about 25% once the base scaling has been taken into account. I like the change, obviously. More bursty, right? More damage. And with Aftershock changes, I don't think we're going to see a return to Aftershock Lysandra. She's not quite going to be able to hold the same spot as she used to as an anti-assassin pick, simply because assassins have too many good tools with runes, and Lysandra is suffering from the same problem Oriana used to, in that she doesn't have a good keystone for her to use. Oriana still might be suffering from that. I don't know. I'll ask somebody who's an Oriana main. But Lysandra isn't exactly in the best spot, and that little bit of armor isn't going to bring her back into the assassin killing state that she used to be. Pantheon. This one, placebo, right? It goes down by 20 late, and by late I mean that's going to be a level 8 level up. Let's see. No, sorry, that'll be his level 9. If he's maxing Q first, because level 8 will be whatever he has to put a second point into. Level 9 is his Q. But this is just a placebo buff, in my opinion. Because, yeah, with the execute, it's going to be like 40%, or not 40%, 40 less or whatever, but, like, it's still, you still gotta lock him down, you still gotta, you have to have another bruiser champion, like Garen up above. I need to stop doing that. Garen, or Olaf, or Skarner, or, one of those champions that, builds that mix of damage and health that can go toe-to-toe with him, but somebody who's not going to get cock-blocked by his E. But his Q, that's not where, I feel like that's not where the problem is. Or, sorry, it is where the problem is, but that's not enough to change it, right? He's still, that quick tap feels great for Pantheon minions, but it's absolutely devastating for everyone else. He's not fun to play into, so. Okay, I've wasted enough time on that. Fiona also gets a little bit of a placebo. This matters more because it's her early ability, I mean. So the first 3 levels are when she's really going to get hit by this, and then at level 7, it's only 5 damage less, and she'll have some AD to cover that. So that's not something I think is really going to be too major. However, it does mean that you can trade against her more easily early. I've been seeing her in Worlds, in the play-in stages a lot. Maybe it's just the games I've been able to view. But her ability to trade early is pretty decent. So this weakens her early, so that now she doesn't just burst people down with just a QWQ. Overall, good change. It means you can punish her early if she tries to trade. You don't necessarily need to 2v1. You don't need your jungler like an Amumu or Skarner to come in and lock him down, or lock her down. Sorry. You can actually fight against it. Okay, now for the big one of the patch. I'm going to try to not spend too much time on this, but. Shaco, basically they made it so that his early game damage is higher, his late game damage is slightly lower, also his boxes deal AoE damage, so he has more healthy jungle clears. He loses about a longsword of health, it's 11.5 overall, but in the end, he's going to have that covered, or he'll build AP, and again, that won't matter. Second, his backstab. The bonus damage has increased, or I can't remember what his backstab used to do. I thought it was that extra damage, but so basically, with that, his bonus, his auto attack behind is now going to do basically 10% more damage, and then if he uses his E from behind, that's another about 10% more damage. So, personally, just don't turn your back on Shaco, once again. It gives Shaco some good outplay potential. So this one, Q. This one kind of confused me at first. I saw a context note from, I think it was Medler or someone else on the design team. they were saying that they wanted his Q to be worth taking early, but still also worth putting points into. And I feel like they got the first one down, right? It goes from 1.5, now it's 2.5 at rank 1, cooldown 16 to 12. Its cooldown used to be 14, like, lowest. So it feels like there's not much reason to put points into it. They did get rid of the cooldown reduction when you exit invis and do a basic attack. The damage went up early, down late, simply because of the scaling. The 130% means this comes out to about a 33% ratio. This becomes 33, becomes 45, becomes 58, this one becomes 80 or 85, basically. So, I get the early is better, but the late, I don't, or taking points into it, I don't see as better. So I'm going to see a lot of Shacos probably taking, an early point to Q and maxing it late. Either second or third, but definitely not first. But going into it, his W, obviously, gonna take W first if you're doing a leashless start. The boxes can do AoE, and the AoE damage is roughly half of single target damage, or slightly less than half, I should say. Single target damage unchanged. I think it gets 35, 50, something like that. So it's roughly 40%. And then I think that this was a 0.25%, or maybe 0.3% AP ratio. I don't remember what the fear duration was on non-champions before. Maybe it was the same as on champions, but now it fears camps better. So healthier clear because more CC. And then monsters are also even slower while feared. So something else to think about. So with that in mind, his clear on multi-target camps is much better. So camps like Raptors, specifically, I know that's what everyone's thinking of, as well as Krugs. Wolves, you'll see a little bit of an improvement as well, but I think in the past he's been able to just kind of kill the little ones quickly and focus down the big one. This is honestly just a Raptors buff, thinking about it. 2-shift poison, so they've changed it from physical to magic. I thought it was already magic damage before, but maybe that's just me thinking about it with its, decent damage if you build AP. So they've increased the base damage by 15 per rank, or not 15 per rank, but 15 flat overall. And then the AP ratio is down, as is the AD ratio. However, it now has an execute, basically. The damage is increased by half if a target is below 30% health, which suddenly means this becomes 0.9, higher than that, and this becomes 1.2, which is the max rank damage. So overall, his E is higher damage both early and late, something to keep in mind, and as long as you're low health. So we're likely to see a lot of Shacos holding their E for late damage, or using E early so that they can try to get a second one off when you're trying to run, or when you're leaving. I don't know if that 50% increase applies before or after the backstab, but that's something that the wiki probably will have documented within a couple of days. So keep that in mind and look for that. Last, ult, the boxes now fear immediately, so you don't have 2 seconds to kill them beforehand. And then the damage, damage on the boxes is down, and they now deal AoE, same as the W boxes, and the fear has been flattened. So, I feel like they did hit their target on making his early damage better, and early utility better. His late damage, if he on executes, is much better, so if you're low health, again, something to watch out for. But, I think these changes really point we're going to start seeing a meta where Shaco is likely to start his top side buff solo and go to the enemy top side buff, take their buff, and wait for them and ambush them. So if you're playing into Shaco, take a sweeper early. Not so that you can invade and destroy his boxes like people used to at the, a few patches, I shouldn't say a few patches ago, a few months ago. Back before they made his traps, Jack-in-the-Boxes, no longer trigger when they're revealed, but simply show up. But also, his, you basically, you need sweeper early if you're up against Shaco. Either that or you try to out-mind game him and you go for his bot side buff while he takes your top side. For laners, his invis is better, so you'll need deeper ward coverage or better ward coverage to see him coming. And then you also feel free, especially late game, have somebody tanky with CC near your carries who can keep them locked down. Either a support like Alistar or Blitz or Thresh, or a tanky jungler like a Mumu or Remus, or even just a bruiser with some sort of CC, somebody like Garner. But yeah, late game, just as long as he's not getting those those backstab procs on your carries, you should be fine. Anyway, moving on. Sorry for taking so much time on that, even though I tried not to. Sona's basically just getting a quality of life change. She gets a second resource bar, similar to Annie's, but it's only visible to Sona, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to see when you know your passive is up. The only thing that I would like to see that I don't know if they've added is make it change colors based on which of her basic abilities she's used last, Blue for Q, green for W, and purple for E, so that she knows that her next attack will either deal bonus damage, reduce the enemy's damage, or slow them down. Varus, so he gets base AD increase and some placebo buffs. I don't think this is going to bring him back into being dominant. It might bring him back into being usable. But basically his last hitting is slightly better. And then Viktor is the last of the champion changes. So, a couple of bug fixes. This one is, so his shield, when he uses Q, no longer is based off of his mana, but it's instead given a base ratio, as well as keeping the former AP ratio. This is basically 30 plus 5 per level. Something to keep in mind if you want to do some quick math on that, although once he's got AP, the quick math no longer matters. I like this change. It makes it easier to balance him. I know they had problems balancing Rise around his mana-based damage, so overall, good balance-based change in that it's easier to balance him. Gravity field, so instead of pulling people into the center, which was kind of a core mechanic, now his direct hits from abilities will slow enemies, so that affects, here it says W augment now grants a slow to other spells, so if he hits you with his Q or his E, you will now be slowed by 20%. This means chasing him down will be harder, and running from him will also be harder. He's going to be basically a mage form of Ashe. I kind of like that. I kind of like the change that they've made here. It's going to be interesting to see how this changes him. And then last, ult changes. So when he dies, his ult will still chase you. It will chase you all over terrain now. And then it ticks twice as fast. That doesn't mean the damage is doubled though, because they cut the damage in half, except for the AP ratio, which is slightly higher. Instead of it being 0.425, it's 0.45. So they've very slightly buffed the damage on his ult, and they've made it harder to run from. Also, it now moves a little bit faster if he evolves it with his Hex Core. So it moves, the minimum is higher, as is the maximum, obviously. So it now actually can outrun champions if they don't have boots. That's something to keep in mind. If you don't have boots, you need them against Viktor now in order to not get run down by his ult. Now, granted, that's maximum movement speed, which I think might be towards him. I cannot confirm that right now. Don't quote me on it. But that's something to keep in mind. Overall, good change. I don't think it's going to bring him back into being quite as meta, but I think this is going to make him more consistent. More consistent to play. It gives him better utility. Okay, Locket of the Iron Solari. So this change basically means that they've taken this 5 per level, and they've dumped it into the base. So it ends up being the same amount at level 18, but it's better early. So expect tank supports to take this more often. Expect them to, expect your Brahms and your, Tom Kench, if he's still played, maybe Alistar taking Locket of the Iron Solari earlier, rather than just going something like Knight's Vow, Zeke's, and I don't know what else. Yeah, Knight's Vow, Zeke's. They might throw Locket in before Zeke's, or instead of it. Last, social media, screw that. Bug fixes. This one I want to bring up in particular because I looked at it last time, and what the hell, Riot, that's some spaghetti. Basically, while Nico is disguised, if she's using her ult, and then Lulu uses her Whimsy on her to transmog her, Nico loses base stats and the ability to basic attack, but only with Winter Wonder Week Nico skins. Just something to keep in mind is only with that skin is when that happens. The fact that they found it, as well as they figured out that's what the bug was, is absolutely insane, and it shows just how much crap is in this game that the devs have to work through. I don't want to blame the current devs because this may be some legacy stuff, but still, that's an impressive bug to even have. Last, skins. I like this one, High Noon Ash. Kind of reminds me of Caitlyn just because of the kind of sheriff motif they're going with. High Noon Darius. This looks like a cross between Graves and Twisted Fate. Tell me I'm wrong. It's Twisted Fate's hat on Graves' face. And then this arm pose just reminds me of Yorick's shovel in his splash art. So, and High Noon Hackram, this one looks really nice. Kind of going for like a Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse look. I think it works well probably with the High Noon Thresh skin. Chromas, you can check these out in more detail, but the Ash ones look nice. The High Noon Hackram ones look nice. In fact, this makes me think of the Infernal and Amumu skins, and I wouldn't be surprised if this one turns into a giveaway skin for like the partnership program, streamers and all that. Riot can do better with this. This just looks goofy, in my opinion. These just do not look good. I can't exactly say what it is. They just... Maybe it's the pose, but he just almost looks like he's supposed to be a robot. Like an old school style robot with this, so it's not a good looking one on him. But, anyway, so that's the end of the patch. So, 3 updates, one which is much more major than the other. Watch out for Shaco. On that note, actually, in the comments, tell me, should I be saying it Shaco or Shaco, or is there a third pronunciation I haven't considered yet that you need to spell it phonetically? As well as Garen, I believe we'll see a bit more of that just based off of the changes, and expect to see more damage on him, and expect to see more Viktor because I think he'll be slightly more consistent with that W change specifically. Overall, though, if you think I'm wrong, please tell me, but don't just tell me, show me. Go out there on the Rift, have fun, and good luck to you all.